Hey there, single lady. As scary as it may seem sometimes, maybe you've been seeing a guy and he simply pulls away or he disappears for a time. And this can be really difficult. So what are you supposed to do about it? I'm going to help you with that right now. Hey, I'm Shana Schutte, author, speaker, and dating and relationship coach for Single Over 30. And I help single over 30 women learn how to attract a trustworthy, marriage-minded man. So maybe you've had this happen to you, right? So imagine for a moment that you've been seeing a guy for a while and things seem to be going pretty well, and then suddenly he pulls away from him, or maybe you don't hear from him quite as much as you were hearing from him before, or maybe it's been quite a while and maybe he doesn't text you back right away, or maybe he cancels a date, and you sense that there might be something wrong and your fear starts to kick in. And you're not sure what to do. It's like, do you move forward toward him? Do you pull back? You might feel the urge to flood him with a whole bunch of texts or emails or drop by his house. You don't want to do that. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to give him space. So it's important to resist the temptation to push him to engage with you, because the distance that you are experiencing might not have anything to do with you at all. So this is really tough, especially if you've been ghosted before, or you've had some men pull away from you and then ditch you altogether. This can really hurt, and it can be hard if you struggle with abandonment or rejection. So it can be super difficult to put yourself out there to make that initial connection and then not to hear from him. So it's natural to be afraid, because this is a common occurrence that seems to happen in our culture and relationships, and nobody wants to be rejected. So I would panic in this situation when I was single, because I was the type of woman who fears abandonment. If you can relate, you know how difficult this is. And if you have trouble with space, it may mean that you are the kind of person who has trouble with that too, thinking that a guy is never coming back to you. And so when he starts to pull away from you, then you automatically think that he's leaving for good. And that might make you feel incredibly anxious about giving him the space that he needs when he's pulling away. So you may have heard that sometimes guys just need to go into their man cave, right? They're not as good at, I shouldn't say as good, but they handle internal stuff that's going on with them far different than women do on the whole. So lots of times women, we want to process and we want to talk about it. But men, sometimes they just want to go into their man cave, they want to think about it, they want to internally sort of process it, and then they're ready to discuss. So the best thing that you can do is give him the time and space that he needs to process whatever emotion or thoughts that he is experiencing. Trust me on this one, because I've done it the other way and it hasn't worked. So the next thing you want to do is create a conversation. So maybe if after a week or so has passed, if he seems kind of distant, it would be appropriate, especially if you've been dating him, to communicate in your concern and ask him if everything is okay. Again, I said especially if the two of you have been communicating regularly. So this should be done kind of in a low-key fashion, just to let him know that you've noticed that things have been a little bit different between the two of you, and that you miss connecting with him, and ask him if everything is all right. It's possible that he's upset with something in the relationship, and as a result he has withdrawn because he doesn't know how to confront. So I'm not saying it's right, but it's something that men will often do because they don't know how to communicate lots of times in the way that women do. So it's not an excuse for guys' non-communication, but just be aware that men are often not as capable as women to talk about their feelings. So if you kind of just broach the topic in just a calm way and have a calm conversation with him, the dialogue that can follow after you bring something up could bring you closer. So when he's ready to talk, what you want to do is don't get overly emotional. So if he's pulled away because he's not sure how to share what he's feeling, it's important to create this safe space for him in the relationship to freely speak, especially if he's been feeling something negative about the relationship. If it's a new relationship, it's possible that it's just not working for him, and there could be any number of reasons why a relationship might not be working, and it's possible some of them may not even be about you. There may be things like that he's not ready. So the really tough part is kind of giving him the freedom to share his feelings without overreacting. And I say that, when I say that, that sounds so horrible, because lots of times women, we're afraid of being too much. But men are taught oftentimes to protect women and to make them feel safe. And men also don't know what to do lots of times with the emotion that women can present in a situation that is emotionally charged, like tears or anger, whatever. These kinds of things can oftentimes make a man want to pull away. So you want to create that safe space for him, because if he doesn't feel safe in the situation, he could emotionally shut down and he might pull away without communicating with you at all. So avoiding emotion also, or like really high emotion, right, is also going to give you what you need so that you can listen to him without becoming defensive. So for example, you may have unwittingly teased him in front of his friends, and that made him feel self-conscious. And I just did a podcast on this this last week, I think, with my husband on how to talk to men. So maybe you teased him, you were just joking, you didn't mean to make him feel uncomfortable, and that made him feel self-conscious. And if he says that to you, if say he says something like this or brings up something that you've done, instead of defending yourself, apologize, try to understand how he feels, and then commit to not do that again. Pay attention to what he's asking of you, and then you want to change your behavior to show that you really care about him and that you honor him. So when these open and honest conversations happen, what can happen is something really awesome. It can be the reason that the two of you get closer to each other. In German, there's a phrase that says Konflikt verbindet, and what that means is that conflict binds. And in a relationship, when two people can come together and they can understand each other, it can be the very reason that intimacy deepens. Lots of times what we want before we get married, or if we've had some really bad situations in our past, is we want something that's smooth sailing. We don't want any trouble at all in a relationship. But in reality, no relationship is free from every conflict, right? It doesn't mean that a relationship has to be really rocky all the time and unhealthy. And in fact, if that's the case, you might get some help to find out, hey, is this a really healthy situation or not? But in every relationship, there is conflict that comes up, and those times are opportunities to move in towards the person that you are dating or that you're interested in, that you've been seeing for a while, and find out, hey, what's going on? And if there has been some sort of disagreement or something that's happened between the two of you that's create hurt feelings, it can be the reason that intimacy develops between the two of you. So next, you want to ask him for what he needs from you. Ask him what he needs from you. So repeat and clarify what he said. So you can say, so what you're saying is that I hurt you, or what you're saying is you aren't sure about continuing the relationship, right? And then if he says yes, you can tell him, okay, I understand, and ask him if he'd like to talk with you about it a little more. And if he says he's not ready, you don't want to push him. You just want to say you understand, that you're open to talking whenever he's ready, and then what that does is it gives him permission to go off into his man cave and to mull it over. And you may process your feelings. I know this can be really hard if you're anxious, because for you, if you're feeling he's going to permanently pull away, you want to move toward him, and that can create more pressure in the situation, and you don't want to do that. So for you, what you can do is move towards your girlfriends. Talk to them about how you feel. Maybe talk to a professional, talk to a mentor. Reach out to me on my singleover30.net website. I would be happy to give you a free 30-minute coaching session if you haven't had one of those already. Talk to someone who can help you kind of process what you're thinking. But a lot of times men don't need to do that, right? They like to, like I said, process on their own, and then it takes them longer sometimes. They're not as quick. So it's important for you to distract yourself while he takes that time. Don't bombard him with text or Facebook stalk him or leave messages on his phone. Don't press him. You need to be patient with him while he kind of figures this out, especially if he said, no, he didn't want to talk about it, and then you just said, okay, when you're ready, I'm here. What you're doing when you're patient like that is you're showing that you are a safe person. So you have to I want to note something here. I'm not talking about a physically abusive situation, or someone who is emotionally abusive, or someone who's a manipulator who just wants you to do whatever he says, and he's trying to manipulate you in a conversation. I'm talking about two people coming together, trying to solve a relationship problem, and you coming together with a good guy who's generally safe, right? That kind of situation has the potential for a really healthy relationship. The next thing you want to do is, when he pulls away from you, is you want to reject the stories that you tell yourself. So, as I've said, there could be any number of reasons why a man pulls away from you, and a lot of them may not have anything to do with you. If it's a guy that you've been seeing for a while, or a new relationship, you might panic because you're thinking, well, what did I do? And then you start to blame yourself, and you're replaying conversations in your mind, and you're starting to go into this spin, and you're double guessing everything that was said in the past, trying to figure out, well, what went on? Why did this happen? But the truth is that you may not have done anything. He might be realizing that he's not ready for a relationship like he thought he was, especially if it was a newer relationship and you jumped in really, really quickly. Or he may be testing the boundaries of the relationship to see if there can be some space, because sometimes guys have a hard time moving from, dating to a deeper commitment. He might think that he needs to slow down a little bit, or he's just trying to figure out how he feels about the relationship. He might be checking to see if you're going to pressure him, even though he's not saying that. So a man pulling away is a relationship problem that you can solve. But you don't want to internalize a lot of this stuff that goes on, right? And what happens when he pulls away. You don't want to blame yourself, especially if you've been hurt in the past. You can start telling yourself all kinds of negative things about yourself. You don't want to start thinking, well, I'm not enough, or I'm rejectable, or see, this always happens to me. It's never going to work out. You want to pay attention to those words and those things that are going on inside of you when a man pulls away from you, because if a relationship doesn't work out and you are carrying that stuff around inside of you, it can prevent you from moving forward into a new relationship with hope and with clarity and feeling good about yourself and about the future. So also, these things that we tell ourselves can be coming from some old wounds. So you might ask yourself, is this a script that I keep playing over and over and over again when something doesn't go right in a relationship? So you have to reject those thoughts, and you want to embrace the truth that if this guy doesn't get you, or if he's not your person, it doesn't mean that there's not someone out there for you. 1, 2, 3, 5 bad relationships does not your whole history make. And I speak from experience because I know that's to be true. Just when I thought a relationship was never going to work out for me, here came along my husband, someone who really understood me, after some men were like, I don't like your personality, right? So it's not that I was bad, I just wasn't the right match for them. So you want to get rid of any kind of negative thinking that happens on the tail end of feeling like a guy's pulling away from you, because then that can sabotage your relationships. And again, you don't want to move toward him and pressure him, because that can sabotage as well when he says that he needs space. So you also want to distract yourself. So during the time that he's saying that he needs space, you want to take care of yourself, like I said, call a girlfriend up, read a good book. I know this can be super difficult, right? Especially if you struggle with a fear of abandonment or rejection, but you want to distract yourself. And then if you haven't heard from him for a while, like I said, you can check back in with him. This whole process is really important, but it can deepen your relationship by talking it through when he is ready. So it can be really counterintuitive, because women are so relational. We want to work things out, right? We want to figure out why this guy's pulling away from us, and it can be counterintuitive that in order to save the relationship, you might need to give space, communicate that you're available when he wants to talk, and let him come to you. So it's really a leap of faith, and it's one that shows that you have confidence, right? And it's going to have a higher success rate than chasing after guys who have pulled away from you, because you just don't know what's going on. And with guys who may not be ready to communicate their feelings to you, this can be really hard on the heart, and it can feel lonely, and it can be really difficult if you have someone that you've made a connection with suddenly pull away from you. But it's important that you keep faith, hold on to confidence, hold on to hope, give him space, and remember, most importantly, that the dream that you have to love and be loved is possible. Also, if you haven't checked it out, you might want to get my Safe to Love worksheet. So head on over to singleover30.net, scroll down on the home page, and there's a graphic there that shows a worksheet. It says Safe to Love, or you can scroll down a little bit further and there are lots of downloads that you can get. Go ahead and sign up for one of those, and then I will be able to keep in touch with you when I have free classes and coaching sessions and all kinds of cool stuff. All right, again, head on over to singleover30.net for some freebies and my Safe to Love worksheet. See you next time. Bye-bye.